Greetings, Mr. Nishil. Thank you so much for joining us on the Safety Connect podcast. And to everybody who is watching or listening in, let me give a quick introduction about you to our viewers and listeners. So, Mr. Nishil has over 34 years of experience, excels in linking people, strategy, and performance to drive cultural transformation and mitigate ESG impacts. He has led HSE for major projects, including 8 years in LNG construction, 2 years in power plant commissioning, and nearly 2 years in petrochemical projects. His background spans deep water electrical maintenance, safety, fire and rescue, and work across dockyards and vessels. He's passionate about research and problem solving. He fosters a day one culture where safety and success go hand in hand. And Mr. Nishil is currently head of environment, health, and safety at Larsen and Toubro. So thank you so much for joining us on the Safety Connect podcast.
Thank you very much, Thanmai. Good afternoon, and delighted to see this intro of yours, and thank you for that.
Great. Is there anything you feel you would like to add to that?
So when you said about my background, suddenly I am reminded of the several years that went by so fast, and 34 years. So that was my first thought in my mind. And let me just correct you that it is Larsen and Toubro, and we are a internal company which is called Larsen and Toubro Carbon Light Solutions, where I'm heading EHS.
Got it. No, thank you. I mean, it's a pleasure to have you here. So whenever I talk to anybody on the Safety Connect podcast, my first question is like, what got you into safety? Why safety? When there were so many other options that you could have chosen from.
So I would take you through a humble beginnings of mine. I come from a small town or a village in Kerala, and it's an island village. It's called Waipin Island. It's in the harbor mouth of Kerala, and predominantly most of the people in that region or that belt are from one particular profession, that is shipping industry. In my family, my great grandfather was one of the first Indian engineers to be assigned in a ship. My maternal side great grandfather, and my dad was a chief engineer till he retired recently. So we were staying around this place, and there were a lot of incidents happening around this place, which was like which became a norm over a period of time. And I was in my sixth or seventh. I would listen that a particular classmate of mine, his father, who was working in shipping, he expired abroad, and then we are having a funeral there. Then I used to go for that. My own classmate, Don, who is currently in Bangalore, his brother, he was working in a chemical carrier, and he passed away. And again, attended the funeral. My other friends, uncles, relatives, etc., also faced similar accidents. And that got me into thinking about the reason why these people are having these untimely deaths. That was one of the times that when I thought that for every accident there should be some reason. This I registered when I was in 7th standard. While on my way back with my two sisters, coming back from tuition class, I saw there is an electric post, and there is a body hanging there. And when I got back home, I got this news that it was one of my childhood friends. Friends means he was a little senior to us, but then was in the same community that we were playing football, etc. He had done his ITI in electrical, and he worked as an intern in the electricity department. He went to do some job, and probably it was not isolated properly, and he burnt down. He died. So he was barely 20 years or 21 years probably as an intern. That was there in the background of me. And in 1989, after my 12th, joined the Navy, and I was posted in a floating dock in Port Blair, Andaman Nicobar Islands.
Okay.
So, but part of the task was, to do the maintenance of the generators there, and I was supervising a team of people there. So the task involved was to clean, to unbox the generator, take the stator out, and clean all the carbon with spirit, and dry it out, and then check the insulation back again, and box it again. So till 11:30 I was there, and I went to the control room for a walk in the night. And while leaving, I told them specifically, anyone who wants to have a smoke, uh, I'm talking about the year 1993. Anyone who wants to have a smoke or etc., you need to go up and smoke. The All those instructions was given to them, and then I left to the upper deck. While on the upper deck, I was just taking a small rest over there in one place. Then I saw this smoke coming up from somewhere, and when I went there, I couldn't believe that the place I just walked up, everything is filled with smoke now, and then rushed inside with the Aikaba, which was kept there, and rushed into the ground, and then saw this seven of them were on the floor, uh, suffocating. Like what we were trained to do is, if we are in a smoke filled compartment, we can also share this like a hookah, the same breathing apparatus. I removed it. I gave it to them. All seven of them plus me came out of that place, and we came out of that place. And next day, the next day, and a week later, also we were being called by several people who were doing the board of inquiry. What happened? How did it happen? All safety professionals and etc. So I was each and every time I was telling the same statement, because I'm the witness. I was also supervising that job. What went wrong there? And finally, there was a big charge sheet made in my name, saying that I did the mistake. I was actually just a, uh, a trainee who landed up in the wrong place at the wrong time, whereas there were other seniors who were supposed to be there at that time. And one of the outcome of that investigation is that they just saw my presence of mind to save people. Because what I did not know as a trainee was there was a fuel tank very close to that. And what Nishil did is, Nishil went down, saved these guys, came up, automatically closed the doors, and operated the Karatem system, which is the inbuilt firefighting system, which injected a inert gas into the chamber, the generator room, and the fire was put out. So what the investigators saw is the fire actually spread because this was all droplets in the air, a lot of spirit in the air, and one of them decided not to go to the upper deck to smoke. So he took a shortcut, went to the corner of the room and smoked. But because this was spread everywhere, the spirit was already spread everywhere in the air. It just spread like wildfire, but no color, colorless flame.
Okay.
Everything got burnt in the process. Only the outer uh, panel and all got burnt. In the meanwhile, we have put out the fire before it spread into the fuel tank, which was also open as part of the annual maintenance. We had opened up the hatch of the fuel tank also. So if it had gone there, because hydrocarbon is present there, it would have been a blast actually. So my presence of mind was appreciated next day. Initially, they wanted to do the investigation properly, so I felt I did a mistake. But after 3 days, I was told that it was not a mistake. You responded well and appreciated. And for this, I was given an opportunity to be in the safety department. After that, I was sent for a course called nuclear chemical biological damage control, and we started doing safety after that.
This
And
was
wherever I worked,
this
this
was
was in 19
in the Navy itself.
in the
While you
Navy
were
itself. Yeah. So I started conducting small orientation for everyone who comes and uh, doing the safety checks on all those fire installations, etc. I started learning from the base because my subject was totally different, electrical. From there, I moved to this place,
got
and
it, got
then I started knowing about this. This is my humble beginning on safety.
got it. Interesting. So you mentioned about it was a safety role, but also comprised of nuclear, biological, and used a few more terms, right? What is that?
It's about nuclear chemical biological damage control. Damage
Okay.
control is, or in short, we call it loss prevention department in many of the other things, but in the defense we call it an NBCD.
Hmm.
NBC. So that was my uh, initiation to safety or introduction to safety, and then I took off from there because those days there was no internet or information available. So I had to order several books on OSHA from on NEBOSH, on NFPA to know more about how safety is handled by at a global stage. So I started learning and I started asking several of my seniors where to get this information from. And lucky for me, all the institutions that Navy has got a big library with a lot of information, which was actually available. Only thing needed was my hunger, and I had a lot of it. So I kept reading about it and educated myself on on various aspects, and then I started implementing them in my little sphere of influence. That is my beginning.
Very interesting. So nuclear, is that something which a lot of enterprises today worry about or talk about?
Not really. If you're not really into the business of that, but from the defense perspective, those days it was a those days means in the 80s. There was uh, there was a air that is what if this happens? What if there is a major fallout? And how do you deal with that? So that is that training is received by strategic positions in the within the defense segment, and everybody is trained for the comeback. What happens after that? During the period of that, everybody will be in shelters, but after that there is a cleansing procedure which has to be done. There is certain norms to be done if you are operating one of those equipments. Everything has to be cleansed before we use it again, because it will be all contaminated after that. If it is chemical, also there is a wash down procedure. So everybody has to be segregated sideways, and then the water has to be sprayed on them in a particular way. There is a way they have to follow, and post that they have to discard whatever clothes they are wearing, because if you are sprayed with some chemical, it can be. You heard about the threat of anthrax, right? In the uh, uh, past decade. So these are all chemical weapons actually. So if this is happening, then what to do? So we have that there should be technicians who are within the core team to guide the people accordingly during a time of emergency, and also they teach us how to be uh, a critical thinker at that point. You should not get emotional, because maybe there are also bloody scenes that you see during those periods. So we are trained for that also, to remain constant vigil and do what we are supposed to do as per the SOP, like a checklist. So that also gave me a lot of discipline into what I do. So even if you try to divert my attention and all, I would still focus, or my focus would be on safety as again back. I would
Understood.
come back to the
Mm.
same square one.
Do you think that the Navy background or a military background is a plus for safety professionals?
I think very much yes, and it is also evident from many of my colleagues, successful EHS leaders that I met across the globe, whether it is in UAE, whether it is in UK, whether it is in Saudi or Indonesia or Singapore. Many of them are veterans. I mean,
Mm.
I do not know whether it is all good for them, but definitely for a person like me who has the hunger for safety, to know more about safety, and this gave me the strength to be uh, focusing on certain things and be disciplined on certain things without being carried away with other aspects. In safety, there will be times when you are uh, in a negotiating point where uh, many of the times we have to have the discussion and the evaluation is between whether cost is important, cost consciousness is important, uh, or person's life is important, and then people has to be put on first priority all the time. So this is regardless of who is standing in front of me. Probably he is the owner of the company, he's the CEO of the company, he's the president and managing director, or maybe he's a stakeholder, maybe he's the client customer. Despite of the environment, I am expected to say the right thing, and later on I would get a pat on my back from my CEO himself saying that, yeah, at that moment I'm not able to talk this, and you said it before I could say it. So thank you for that. This is what feedback I get from my leadership most of the times, and from my peer groups. What they expect to happen is this safety leader who is strong enough and who stands there and supports the movement. This is a movement basically. We are trying to change human behaviors in a large scale or a big picture, if you see, and that requires some level of leadership, and the military provides that, I would say. And I'm thankful for those 15 years I spent for India and for my country, that has given me this acquired knowledge that I have today, or the skill.
I think that's very interesting. And you can see that when people come out of service, they have there's a lot more to that person. There's so much that they are coming or bringing to the table. Now, when we look at safety professionals today, right, across the board, it could be somebody junior, somebody senior, safety leaders, whoever it is. I notice that some people are really good and they get things done, right? And they want to implement new things. They take the time to figure out research, figure out really what can go wrong and put systems in place to combat that. But I've also noticed there are safety leaders, even leaders, right? They could also be EHS heads of a company. They want to implement something. They like a particular solution, but for some reason they're not able to put it through or get or let it sail. And then they just drop it and it's like, okay, management has said no. So, but that particular initiative might be something which is very important. It could be anything. It could cut across different operations as well. So, what would you advise safety leaders or safety professionals in how they can better tackle such a situation?
So everything starts with the, as you said, like the no business owner would like to have any kind of loss, especially in today's world. If you take talk specifically about the business scenario and the VUCA world that we are in today, the margins are low, and post-COVID, this has drastically uh, come down and is on a linear progression to further go down. So the profit that that the business leaders used to make in the 90s and 2000s won't be the same case today. So that means more and more leaders are focused on reducing the the spillage or the losses of pilferage that is happening in every field, whether it is supply chain disruptions, whether it is related to quality issues that come up, and later on the LD is held over by the customer, and the order reorder doesn't happen because the product's quality has been impacted. The other part is the safety part. Safety part has come to this situation today that if you have an accident, you would get called from every direction as a CEO or a leader of the company or a business unit head, asking people from the stakeholders, they are more concerned. And there is an activism by the stakeholders that what are you doing about the occupational risk over there? We do not want to see these accidents, whether it is a minor cut injury or whether it is a lost time injury. We do not want to have that, or we don't want to have a case of fire or a dangerous occurrence happening. We do not want to have our material getting involved with an accident outside the periphery of the project. Even that is also being looked into as a ESG risk right now. So then that gives you an opportunity to go back and focus on what are we actually dealing with. So safety leaders, my advice to all of them is you remain consistent with your EHS management system, which is supposed to be 100% and which has a lineage with the company's EHS policy. So which is clearly a statement or an undertaking from the top management that all accidents are preventable. So in the do part is the EHS management system. This is again supported by the leadership commitment and visibility that leaders show on the site or in your project whenever they are moving around, what kind of messages they are passing around. That is also influenced partly by the EHS management system, which is plan, do, check, and act, and we continue to do the progression on that. And on the last part today is the digital part. How much we are communicating this non-verbally. Few things are communicated during the training part of it. Few things are there, the artifacts that are developed over there. So leaders, if you focus on the EHS management system, it will partly influence the leadership also. It will also partly influence the virtual messages that you're passing across. So that again reinstates the firm belief that yes, safety is possible, and if the in my little analogy of this, if I say you want to have a sunflower plant, you have to sow the seed first, then you have to water it, you have to neuter it. If there are some bugs or anything, you have to remove that also, get it disinfected from that, remove all the dry leaves over there, and let the plant grow. And you don't worry about the sunflower; it will bloom. With the sun, it will bloom automatically. What we need to focus on is the risk that we are enduring, and that will automatically, the results will automatically come. So what you're managing is the risk, and safety is a byproduct of that. So that is my message to everyone.
Right. So I think it's also very important for that safety professional or safety leader to quantify all of these in terms of numbers to the management, right? Because I think that's what they would understand and talk about, okay, cost of accident, this is how much it's going to be, and really showing those numbers to them and say that, okay, if it's if your factory is shut for a couple of days, this is how much it's going to cost, and hence we need to implement this kind of a system, right? So I think that's one of my takeaways from what you have also mentioned. But sometimes I've noticed that a lot of safety professionals are sometimes not too confident to have these kind of conversations with the management, right? Because they might just say that, okay, management said this is not a priority for us and they don't want to do this. So in that situation, despite them say maybe they have shown the numbers, and in spite of that, if they're getting pushback, what should they do? Do you think it's maybe a cultural issue within that organization, and maybe um, the company doesn't value safety as much? Or do you think there is a different way to interpret or navigate this?
Yes, I agree with you, Tanmay, on this cultural aspect. That's a big topic altogether. Like, the culture doesn't develop over time. Oh, sorry, or in a few days or a few weeks, but over time it seeps in, and with nobody seeing anything, uh, it's like a latent hazard that comes in and then spreads over like a pandemic altogether. So for that not to happen, that PDCS cycle has to be very, very rigid as much as possible. Uh, to an extent, I would go to say that if the management expectation is here and the norm of operating is here, always the gap should be bridged as close as possible to the expectation. And if it is not done, uh, you can't do anything else. Nobody is listening to you. Still, it should be documented in a way that uh, over time this becomes a peer pressure. It develops into a peer pressure. For example, BBS is one of the ways which uh, culture is being addressed today in today's world. And to develop a transformational culture in safety or in uh, I would keep it as culture. What we are supposed to do is we are supposed to intervene wrongdoings then and there. If you see it, you own it. So team equals everyone. This is the principles there. So everyone in the organization is equally important, broadly equity in the business. So what happens is if one person does a mistake today, which is not going to cost anything at that point, a small violation or a small deviation from what is required, then what happens is he's encouraged to do more deviations after 90 days. He gets more confident in cognitive, and he would start telling other people this is the way to do it. Now this is only possible or can be only corrected if we intervene him in the first place. For that, you need to have the SOPs in place. So the importance of standard operating procedure actually is one way the management's policy of EHS, that we will take care of the people, we will make sure that everyone returns home safely, is only possible when we have certain norms which are not bypassed or which are not deviated. And for that, we need to go back and make sure that this SOP is being communicated regularly, uh, and it should be periodically communicated. Also, there should be lectures on this subject, whether it is material handling, whether it is hot works, whether it is the PPE, so that this knowledge, as a human being, we can only have a certain amount of memory in our long term and short term memory. So if you keep this refreshed, what happens is it becomes a way of life. It becomes a second nature to you. As we sit in the car, although many of the people started wearing seatbelt only because of the police. In Kerala, I would say all the cameras are enabled with AI. So they take the photograph and you get the challan ASAP. So people are now, this has widely spread everywhere, and now the people who don't want to see have seat belt, they will never sit in front. They'll say, "I'll sit behind," because that is not seen by the camera. So that is the next level of cultural intervention that we need to do there. That seatbelt is to make sure that the people are safe during a crash, and also this also ensures that your SRS is working. So many of the people who own a car does not know why SRS is written on the dashboard. Secondary restraint system only operates if you wear the primary restraint system, which is the seatbelt. If seatbelt is not mandatory, no matter how costly or fancy your car is, it might not work. It might not save you. Recently, we saw an accident of Cyrus Mystery. Seatbelt was not worn in that case. That was an ML series of Mercedes Benz. It has got 8 airbags. So this is one way you can convince the people by the numbers. And numbers, when I say, there are two numbers that we follow up. Very, very interesting in safety. One belief system that we commonly have is safety is the absence of accidents or incidents, which means that everybody looks for the reactive indicators, right? So reactive indicators are only activated when things go wrong, when the red light comes in. But the matter of fact is 99.2 percentage of time, our operations are safe. We only have accidents once in a while, depending on the culture of the safety at that given time. So we call it that screenshot of that safety culture. We call it as safety climate at that given time. Maybe after that, a new leader has come in, and then suddenly the culture has changed altogether. So again, it's dependent on the management visibility. So when you start giving the numbers to leadership, we can more focus on the leading indicators, lessons learned from the past incidents, and that itself will put the focus back on safety. Because one of the things that I have done successfully over the years is, if I get an information of a small incident or a near miss, I communicate with everyone. Whoever is the stakeholder, I will communicate. I'll make sure that all the workers get the same information next day morning through the leadership. I make sure that whatever corrective action has been taken in that site is also migrated into corrective actions of the current projects and also the future projects. So that way I will fail-proof the system of the same thing not getting repeated again. I will spend more time on investigation. So I spend a lot of time on investigating, and it has been all through my career. Whatever is going wrong, go behind it, find out what went wrong till the time you are satisfied. Because many of the times what happens is, after the incidents, what the safety leader gets it is the stories that people tell. So for that, I ventured a little bit into research of investigations, root cause analysis, and then identified several tools which are available in the market. I started off with YY analysis, fishbone. But then later on came to know that this was meant for simple problems only, not meant for a complex setup. So it works in a factory or a manufacturing line or a shop, but does not work for complex problems. For complex problems, we need to have a, a full uh, uh, overview, 360-degree view of the incident, plus the surrounding situations or the climate, what is there, that also need to be looked into. So then I did some courses like Topset, Kevin Topset, which is an investigative tool. Then I also did a few other root cause analysis, bow tie, etc. And finally, I did one course in 2014, which is Taproot, which gave me an overview on the. We can actually identify many gaps uh, by identifying the chronology of the incident. Means you are going just like a script writer. Uh, when you make a script, you make a script, and then for example, a movie or a serial, uh, they make a script, introduce the hero, introduce the villain, introduce the heroine, and then create one scenario in the background, which is the existing climate, and then show an incident where villain does something wrong, and then enter hero. So if you walk backwards, we do the same script with whatever script we know from the investigation, and we'll put the blanks over there as the place things which we do not know, and all the things which we know, we further drill down into it, and in the timeline, we when we complete the investigation, we can identify most of the boxes are filled in. So the incident will be X, which is the center, and then going backwards would be in the chronology -1, uh, -2, -3, -4, like this. Post incident, we call that period as case management. How did we manage the case after the incident? What happened? Who called who? Was the ambulance called on time? Was the firefighting team called on time? Was the police informed? Was the NDRF involved? If it's a natural calamity, then was the NDRF informed? Was the district administration involved? All those things comes into the plus points: +1, +2, +3, +4. So here we have the script. What are the contributory aspects to it? What are the apparent reasons to this incident, which is the direct cause to this incident? And then you can arrive from this information, we can arrive at the root cause of it, whether it is accountability, whether it is a deliberate sabotage, we do not know, whether it was related to material quality, or procedural issues, procedure not adequate, or something like that. So we can go into the system development overall, rather than putting a blame on a person or calling it human error. This is also one way of convincing the management that incidents can be prevented. This was a systemic error. System failed to identify this latent risk, and most of the cases it is this. But since our investigation is only going up to who the operator was, what happened to him, why he did not do this wrong, then you are going in the wrong direction, which is normally the case. And in this kind of investigation, with the latter investigation, which is negative information, we will only get what the people want to tell you. But if you go for system improvement without blaming the person would automatically tell, and you are creating a no blame culture over there, no name and no blame. So then it goes for a lot of improvement within the system, not only in the risk related items, but also to system improvements, where your efficiency was going down, or where you were having pilferages or losses in time in the production, that also will be corrected by itself. For example, one of the recent investigations we found out is uh, the workforce, although they come to the particular site on time, by the time they start work, it is actually 9:45 to 10. And we all know that in a tropical climate, humidity builds in. By that time, there is a lot of heat and perspiration and humidity, and your golden productive period where the person has got full attention on the job is a morning. And that morning, if you miss out, then you are actually having a person who is fatigued, and who somehow wants to make it to the lunchtime. So that is a time when you can have accidents. So same with the case soon after lunch. That was also a finding that we had between 2 and around 3:30 to 4. There is a time when you can have a lot of road accidents, because people have got fatigue. Soon after lunch, they feel a bit drowsiness. There is also a highway fever, or white line fever that we call, which happens in the highways. So that is the reason why many of the accidents happen during this period. So I think there is a lot of things that we can do, even if the voices are not heard. Uh, Over a period of time, your success will speak for yourself, and then you get more credibility with the top management, and people start listening to you eventually, because there is only one way to do business in the safe way. There's no other way.
Absolutely. And when we're trying to do things the safe way, there are also going to be situations where you have people working together from different countries, right? And there is going to be that difference in culture. So, any thoughts on what's a good way to navigate those kind of scenarios?
One thing is, once you get your visa stamped at the airport, and you are moving out of India, first thing to do is, you need to know that a lot of people with a lot of diversity exist in this world. So you are open to everything after that. There are different kinds of people physically, different religions, different cults, different way of talking. Even though you're speaking English, probably a different dialect will come from a different nationality. So initial days, and I think there is a book by Watkins, D. Watkins, about and sorry, Michael Watkins, about the first 90 days. In that, it's saying the cultural harmony is the key to your success, because everybody around you except you is actually equally important factor alongside your skill and your competency to make you successful, or to get early wins when you reach there in that particular scenario. And this happens in many of the times, uh, that culture does not match in the early days, because we go with a different background, they come with a different background, and then we are working for a same goal. But when we speak a certain things, the what the other party, even though he has not hurt you or harmed you in any way, you just have a bias on that person because he is not like you. So that we have to have a understanding about these biases first. Biases are automatic conditioning that we have, and it comes with our upbringing, our culture, whether we are able to accept other people as they are. And if you are able to do that, then the initial days we need to get in touch with them and know them personally first. I would say if you are having 3 or 4 colleagues, you make it a point that one initial first 2 3 weeks, if you have four of your colleagues there sitting on the same line and working together, uh, you need to know all four of them personally before you start actually doing real business. So those who are lucky to be there in the initial days of any project or any new venture or a new startup, the first thing is to know the team. So in the European culture, it naturally happens because uh, everyone floats a message in the group. Hey, we are hanging out at so and so place. Would you like to join us? So then we turn up there, and certain times we also have got people who don't drink over there, people who don't dance over there, people who don't like this conversation, but they turn up there and then start seeing in the offsite. I call it offsite because it is not the work location, but outside location. And this is one place where we put our guards down a little bit from the work, rigid culture, or the hierarchy. Camera is watching us, that thing is watching us, that person is not known to me. So as a human being, we are always looking for uh, identification of friend from foe.
Sorry,
IFF.
can I did.
Identification of friend from foe.
Oh,
So
okay.
your eyes are on the constant lookout for these targets. Oh, that's the friend. This is the foe. This is the neutral. We do not know who that person is. We need to identify that. Till the time the brain does not identify him as a friend, he is a foe. That is the sad part about this. So what happens is always we consider that the persons we do not know as unfriendly, especially if they have a different kind of physique. If somebody is very intimidating, somebody is not having hair, for example, like me. So Amrish Puri fared well in the Hindi movie because he looked in a different way based on these bias. That at an average, everyone thought him he was a villain even without him saying anything. Everywhere there are cases where certain villains in the southern industry got beaten up. They didn't do anything wrong. So these biases have to be removed from us first before we go and start working globally or internationally. I would say this advice is also for the students who go abroad and meet other cultures. And we need to be learning more about their cultures. What I did is exactly that, and it fared well. I still continue to have a lot of friends from my international projects that I did in Indonesia, to Singapore, to Middle East. A few of them from coming from UK, few of them coming from US. We are all still in friends because our cultures somewhere we found a common factor that was binding us. On the contrary, when you are having hazardous work going on, for example, the construction industry, or we are working in a oil field, it's a very remote place, and people get lonely many times. Offshore is a lonely place. That's why they only keep us for 28 days. On the 28th day, the helicopter will come and we are off the place. Within this time, also, the stress levels are so high sometimes that we may snap at each other at certain times when things don't work in the way we want them to have to do it. And a lot of accidents also happened, and also manhandling cases have happened. This i'm this i'm quoting for the shipping industry again, because we have seen a lot of people losing their lives also in such kind of uh, mobbing. I would say mobbing. Excuse me. This happens in the ships, in these remote locations. Cultures cling to each other for survival, and if you are not with them, you are against them. And certain times when we talk the same English that is okay in India, if we talk abroad, probably they might take this as an offense to them. So these kind of things also happen with other cultures. So we have to be very careful about what we are speaking and not to offend people. Always, if it is an advice, it's good, but do not expect people to be you or your culture. That is my remit on this.
Got it. And also, during one of our conversations, you mentioned about how before starting a project where we have people from different countries working on it together, it's always a good idea for, say, the people to meet before the project kicks off and then catch up for dinner, catch up for a few meals, understand each other, have a casual setting in a casual setting, because that way the familiarity builds and then working together becomes easier, right? So I think that's also
Yes,
one I feel.
yes, very important. I would say if training and competencies are important in the project, it is also cultural evaluation and cultural harmony between the teams is also equally important to drive that message of one team and one goal. That is the leadership visibility over there is one team and one goal. So for that, initially we need to have more frequent gatherings. So I would quote one live example first, and I will say what benefits we had. So I was on this very large project in UAE with the oil industry. We were doing offshore project with a lot of multinationals. I would say we were from nearly 63 countries. So we had people from everywhere, and all of them had to be gelled in together or strapped in together to this oar, and we all had to do this. So the first town hall meeting, the project head comes in with a picture and shows a picture of the Olympic rowing, uh, that that's aerial view of that, and then he passed on the mic to everybody and asked, "What do you see here?" "Oh, France is winning. Germany is second place. So and so country is in third place." That's what most of them said, because what they saw there was their country and the Olympics and the sport. When the noise subsided, what he said is, and I still remember and I quote what he said: "What I see is, I see this UZ 750 team winning, rowing together. In fact, he was only mentioning about the winning team. He was not worried about the competition. So he put us all into that boat within that line. And from that day onwards, he had separate meeting with the administration team to make sure that every month we have got 3 gatherings every month. All the 3 gatherings will be conducted in such a way that the theme will be of one culture and everybody follows it. So there were times when everybody had only idli and dosha, just because few of us were from India. He still ordered the entire meal was from South Indian restaurant, and many of them blew out. Like those who are from the West and all, they can't handle this kind of sambar, the spiciness and all. Still, they managed it, uh, and other times we also had events where, for example, St. Patrick's Day, which otherwise was not an event for me at all. But then the dress code has come up for the team. Everyone has to be in tuxedo. So uh, the team leaders were asked to make sure that everybody's dressed up properly. We are going for this event.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody got the tailoring done and everything done. And all of us had suits already, but then it was not a tuxedo. So we just had to do some minor variations in our dressing. We needed a bow instead of a tie. So we turned up at that event, and it went well. Like, finally, we just partied till late, and then we dropped back from there. So that kind of thing. Initially, we were doing the engineering phase of it, and we were getting to know each other. People from the engineering was there, people from the logistic department was there, people from the operations were there. So we started getting to know each and everyone, and how it reflects during a normal work day is everyone knows everyone. A. B is, I won't write an email to any of the people I partied with. I would walk over to his place and so just call by him by his name and, "Hey Andy, I need help from you. Uh, I have this purchase order which is pending, and I put it in, and it's in your flow now. Please look at it and approve it ASAP." And then things would get going. If they find that something related to safety is there, then they would say, "Okay, please call Nishil then." And then they would call me into the meeting, which was scheduled already, and they find that I can be of some value there. So in that way, we started helping each other actually, and things were good until the last of the project. It was good. So I quote this as a good example. And when we went for a project later on, we did exactly that. But this time we went a little more further because the new project manager who was from ExxonMobil, he said we need to have a consultant for this. So we had one person in the admin who was assigned for this job. So he would look at every nationality, and we also attended few seminars to understand the diversity inclusion of this. And the key takeaways there is people coming from various cultures have got various individualities. When I say individuality, individuality versus individuality is the high and personality is the low. So uh, this is the disparity between both. If you see on the other side, risk taking, for example, there is uncertainty avoidance, which is on the top, and risk taking tolerance, which is on the bottom. This is negative and this is positive. Then there is, we look at to the extent at which a person would go on to achieve something. Certain countries have got high scoring in that. Pragmatism, it's called pragmatism. Pragmatism is something which a person, up to what extent he will go to achieve that, and the least effort that they will take to achieve this. Power distancing, for instance, how much would you maintain power distancing? So in today's scenario, if we look at our power distancing is uh, 70 is something. That is why you will find a lot of hierarchy within our organization. The juniors are not welcome to go and directly meet the general manager or the VPs or the seniors, because we maintain a certain, also came from our colonial background and things like that. Whereas one of the very famous video is one Finnish PM. He was walking out with his coffee and his bag and his umbrella, and on the way he spilled some coffee, and he takes the mop from the janitor and starts cleaning up the thing. This is very much possible there, and in Europe and in these countries, Scandinavian countries. Why? Because the country itself is small, and then plus they know everybody by name there, their first name. Nobody calls each other sir and all. They call Thanmai, Thanmai, Nishil, Nishil. Or if they are in very aggressive business mode, they might call me for Nishil Jos. They might call me NJ. I want you immediately in my office. That means he did not call me first name. So I need to understand the pulse that is behind it. So similarly, these kind of parameters, we actually put it on a table and then looked at the nationalities, those who are incoming from other countries. Especially, we had to do some sort of evaluation on the large workforce who came from northern China. So they are not even speaking Mandarin now. Now we are talking about a different dialect altogether. They don't know English, and they belong to large two companies. So they would go on to be the 60% workforce in the site as well. So then what are the control measures for that? We needed to hire people with English background, English proficiency from their town. So we had to send our admin back there to the northern China and hire those people who understood. And we checked out of 30 sentences that we gave them, how much they could, what we spoke to them, how much they could recall and send it back to us. So this kind of exercises will, like in the initial of the startup or a project or a business, will actually help you to eliminate those gaps. It is like lubricating the tough points in the equipment so that it keeps the machine running smooth without seamlessly. So that is my take on this. And culture plays an important part in the overall success of the team. So whenever you have small wins, you do not call a part team and win and celebrate with a cake. No, and nobody should see this picture as well. In my opinion, it should be a full gathering. If you have 25 people, 25 people. If you have three people, all the three people should be called there and celebrate. If you have a large number of people, everyone should get a small piece of that cake, and that gives the leader credibility. Also, the belief in the cultural system, which will again influence the safety, again influence the quality and overall excellence of the team. That is my take on culture.
Understood. So, last thing I want to ask you is what is the one message you want to leave people with?
I mean, whatever we are doing in a large scale, we will only be remembered for uh, how many dry leaves that we have, not the sunflower. Sunflower is not the thing that people are going to remember. It would be how many lives we have impacted while climbing this stair of success. So, if the business is doing good, how much PAT is coming in by end of this fiscal year is not what people would remember you. People would remember you for how safe the company is, what is the quality of the product. Just like we are talking today about quality, uh, everyone remembers iPhone because when you use it one time, you are forced to buy the second phone again. Whenever the upgrade is coming, people are looking forward to that. Same case with Harley Davidson. I own one, so uh, I can vouch for that. Low maintenance, and people remember that for that. So you be the Harley Davidson and the iPhones, be outstanding. That is my message. Nobody gets hurt.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on the Safety Connect podcast, and we look forward to many more conversations with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Thanmai, and thank you, Safety Connect team, for organizing this. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Yeah.